Welcome, everyone, to the Voice of Meaning, where we delve into meaningful and purposeful topics with interesting people. And we also delve into the idea of intuitive music. And I'm very privileged today to introduce Dr. Suzannah Bozzone. She's a lifestyle medicine doc that I've met through Love.Life telehealth, and she has a very, very interesting story and lots of meaningful things to share with you. So without any more fanfare, what should I call you? Dr. Suze? Dr.
You could call me Dr. Suze. You could call me Suzannah. I go by a lot of things.
I'll call you Dr. Suze because it sounds like Dr. Seuss.
Yes,
and I was a big fan of Dr. Seuss's.
Me too.
So anyway, you look like you're just maybe at the age of somebody starting medical school. And I read on your bio, you've been a doc for 17 years.
Yeah.
Why? And where do you find meaning and purpose in your career?
Yes. So I love all of these questions, and thank you so much for having me. It's such an honor to be here and talk about, this is really why I do it. It's about purpose-driven living. And so it's just great. So I'm 46 years old and I went to Davidson College, which is an amazing liberal arts school down in North Carolina, and was really on the medicine track there, but had never really been in the medical system. I had nobody in my family that was a doctor or really had much exposure to the medical system at all. My mom was a professional dancer and piano teacher, so very much into the arts and music. And my father was an undercover narcotic and a police officer and an FBI agent, and he was from the Bronx, which is why I'm talking like this. And so all in all, very Italian family and very artsy kind of, but not really a medical family. But I did like getting the right answer. And so when you like getting the right answer, you're not going to go into literature, because I really wasn't mature enough for that. So I got on this pre-med track. And I just had my first experience in the medical system in college, where I passed out and fractured my skull basically after a swim practice. So I was a swimmer in college. And it was really then that I got into the medical system, unfortunately, with 4 days of my life that I don't remember at all. And I fractured my skull and I went deaf in one ear. And at that time I was performing a lot as a singer as well. So that was really scary, right? Because if you can't hear in one ear, how's that going to affect your understanding of music and other things and the things that really drive meaning in your life? And so thankfully all was good. Half of my face was paralyzed temporarily, but thankfully that came back. And I just remember that was the first time in the medical system. And I went to this ear, nose, and throat doctor because I was told that, you had some injury to this nerve that goes into this canal in the temporal bone that you fractured. It'll probably be inflamed, but you'll probably get your hearing back. So that was my understanding. And then I go and then probably it'll come back by about 3 months is what I was, at least that's the message I took. Whether or not that's the message they gave, that's a whole another question. And then I went to this ear, nose, and throat doctor and expecting my hearing at least to be getting better, I guess. And it's hard to kind of say when I did have the other ear. And he tested it and he said, oh, actually it got worse. So you went from severe hearing loss to profound hearing loss, but it doesn't matter because you have the other ear. And he walked out of the room. And I was like, when I was expecting something very different, and he told me that, and I felt really crushed, but I also felt kind of stupid for feeling crushed because obviously it wasn't a big deal to him. And I felt kind of like, oh, well, I guess it is no big deal. Why? How come I feel so sad right now? And I really didn't understand what was going on. And then as I kind of looked at that, and I looked at, so here I am. That was my junior year in college. I'm all set up, taking the MCAT, going to medical school is the plan, and all this. And it really kind of struck home that that's not how a healer should be. A healer should know what's important to you and what matters most to you, and should work with you, and should also, even if the answer or the information they're giving you doesn't fit what your maybe hopes were or isn't the best option, they should sit with you and they should help empathize with you wherever you're coming from. And so that was kind of the big hit home with me, was that, people like that, he could be a great surgeon. I don't know. Thankfully, I didn't need surgery, but he really wasn't in a space to be a healer. And so from then, it really kind of inspired me to understand I need to know where my patients are coming from. I need to meet them where they are. I need to recognize what matters most to them, and also to help them partner with them on that journey, not to be a dictator and not to just write off their emotions around something just because it's not important to me, or because there's nothing for me to do surgically. Then it kind of belittles the patient and puts them in the opposite of a healing mode. So that was kind of the inspiration that really, I was already on that track, but it really kind of hit home as to why I felt like I needed to be someplace. And if you're going to do something that's kind of hard, I think that you do need to know why you're doing it. And so knowing why you get up in the morning, which is really what purpose and purpose-driven living is all about, is really key.
Okay, I have a interesting question for you. My wife, bless her heart, does not like doctors. She feels that, if she calls the plumber or the electrician, if they don't fix the problem, you don't have to pay them. And all these doctors she's heard about, they kind of string patients along and prescribe medicines, and she just doesn't see the need for doctors. She's quoted to me that like the third or the fourth leading cause of death is medical error. Why should we have doctors? We can tell what makes us feel good and what doesn't make us feel good. Why are you a doctor, and what are you trying to accomplish?
Yeah, well, that is a very interesting point, and I think that she's probably certainly not alone in that thought, and I can understand where she's coming from. Now, I think that doctors are very important, and that most of us, I think, go into it with good intentions and learn this information to really understand how the body works and what we can do to help them. But unfortunately, when we find ourselves in a medical system that gets reimbursed for the sicker the patient, and the more we do to the patient, the more intervention that we do to the patient, the higher the reimbursement. Now, the physician doesn't necessarily see that reimbursement, right? Because this is a business model, and it's the medical system and so on. And so it's really sad that that's kind of what's become of our medical system, is that the people that do reap the benefits from patients reap them typically from sicker patients. And so you can see and understand why people feel like that and resent the medical system. But I think, the reason I went into it is really to treat patients how I would want to be treated. I am not one to I didn't come from a medical background. We never went to the doctor growing up, thankfully. And so as a result, going to a pill, the first line, is not what I go to. In fact, it's the last thing that I'd go to. I want to know what's causing the root cause of whatever this message is. And I'm very much, having really been, a swimmer, and then I'm a certified yoga instructor as well, and really recognizing the power of being curious about the messages your body sends and listening to the wisdom that your body holds. And now, yes, sometimes we need to use medications, and sometimes there's a beautiful partnership that needs to happen there for the best interest of the patient. And sometimes we can get off of medications, and that's fantastic. Sometimes we can't. And if that's what we need to live our best life and do what matters most to us with the most vitality, then that's where we are. And it's great to have all of those tools to figure out what resonates and partners best with what the patient needs. But I think, what I would want, and what I do want, and the reason why I practice lifestyle medicine, and the reason why I jumped out of the medical system and literally did not make any paycheck for a whole year. And thankfully, my husband sold more paintings. He's an artist, and it just kind of worked out, you've purpose driven. And while my financial advisor was not very impressed with that decision, and I couldn't be happier, even though, you don't have benefits, you don't have these things. But the reason I did it was because I felt like I was contributing to the sickness. I felt like with my 7 to 12-minute patient visit, that it was reinforcing that, okay, you have acid reflux. Okay, should I ask you why you have acid reflux. What are you eating? What's the timing of your meals? How is your stress? Should I go that route? Or should I just give you Prilosec and go out the door and then get another RVU and get another patient, you know, in and out of the door? And I would never, I wouldn't want to be treated like that. So I was spending so much time with patients in the medical system, you know, not getting lunch, don't get to pee, you do all the things that you do because you want to give the care that you would want for yourself and your family members, and understand why your body is sending these messages, not just to cover up the symptoms. And so to do that, that's really the premise of lifestyle medicine. It's really kind of asking those questions, not just, you know, nutrition is so big, and that's where we probably have the biggest gap between the typical standard American diet and the nutrition that's going to fight disease most effectively. But it's not just that, right? It's a holistic understanding of how can we receive those nutrients? Are we overstressed or underslept? Am I connecting or am I lonely? You know, do I have a tribe? Am I engaging in other toxins that maybe we need to look through how we can support people to live their best life, not to add more to the to-do list, but rather to recognize what matters most to you. Your health is necessary for that end. And what are you ready to do that I can partner with you, not to add a setup for failure, but rather to help support you on success, so that the more you do, the more layering and the more successful you feel, and you can continue that journey to your most vital self. And that's what I would want for myself. So that's what I give to my patients. And I think, you know, if we were all trained in lifestyle medicine, which hopefully one day, I think it's changing, I think it's going to be a long course, but it won't be so foreign in our typical medical system. I hope.
Thank you. A little personal note, 34 years ago, when I was 40 years old, I was morbidly obese. I think I weighed 240 pounds. I wanted to buy more life insurance because I had a young family, and they declined me because of weight and also because I had high blood sugar. So I went to my family doctor and told him the news. And he immediately prescribed me what used to be metformin. It was called glucophage at the time, and did an A1C test, and that was like 9. And he said, take this and stop eating sugar and stop drinking juice, just eat the oranges and try to lose about 20 pounds or more. And maybe it'll be less severe. Of course, it wasn't. I did lose the 20 pounds. My A1C was still through the roof. And then he said, well, I think it's time you start taking insulin shots. And I started doing that. Was able to lose maybe another 10 pounds, but 8 years into this, I had my first heart attack. So if we can go back in time, and your office was in Anchorage, Alaska, and you were my family doctor 34 years ago. And with the knowledge you know now, what would you have done with me?
Yeah, right on. Well, so I think what's really important is number one, to recognize where you want to go, you know, because and that's it. What matters most to you? Why do you want to live longer? And recognize that that's really the question we want to answer. And then I lay out for you, okay, so you've got diabetes. What is driving these sugars to be high? What is driving the insulin resistance? Knowing that, yes, the refined sugar and processed food is a piece of that, but the saturated fat is a major piece of that. And what's going to, in the long run, be something that's going to most effectively address the root driver of that? Now, what are you ready to do, and how can I help you on that journey? What support do you need from me in order to do that? And see where you fall, you know, and say, we can start with 1 meal a day. We can go from there. Now, what resources do you need? Where are your barriers that we can shift obstacles into opportunities? Because there's so much there. There's knowing, and then there's doing, and there's a huge gap of opportunity in between those two things. But first, we have to kind of feel out what you're ready and wanting to do and what's feasible for you, and kind of work from that place, and ideally have in an infrastructure that we can kind of notice where you might need help, because you might be a great chef and know all this stuff about food, or you might just be so terrified from the kitchen. We've got to start with just understanding what's a cutting board, so recognizing what your needs are and how we can approach those, but also giving you the information that you need to know what's going to reverse the insulin resistance. And I think that's so big. I was doing this talk earlier today and just talking about high blood pressure, right? Because really in rural settings, high blood pressure goes down with age. It doesn't go up with age. But here in this country, we think, you're 45, here's your first lisinopril prescription. You're going to be on this for the rest of life until we add 2 or 3 more. Then we check your sleep study and we find out you have sleep apnea. So we put you on a CPAP. And then, well, we're waiting for your heart attack, and you think, maybe let's talk about why is your blood pressure high and what could we do to optimize your blood flow, to reduce your stress, to improve your sleep, and really optimize those dark leafy greens and all those wonderful foods that are going to help normalize your blood sugar, your blood pressure, and go from there. But there's just so much that's lacking in the delivery and the knowledge base of the true drivers, where, we're trained in medical school so often to based on what is reimbursed, and what is reimbursed is medications. And so we speak in that language, and we don't back up a step and say, well, why are these symptoms happening in the first place? There's so much opportunity there.
What do you eat for breakfast?
Well, I have a kind of nutty breakfast, but it's not nutty in the sense of nuts, but it's a little bit local. But what I eat for breakfast, I have ground flax is like something that I use as very just starter, like a low-lying fruit, if you will. Ground flax is so wonderful for so many reasons, for omega-3s, for the fiber content, for the lignans, for hormonal balance. So I put a big bowl and I do my ground flax, and I put my turmeric and black pepper because of its anti-inflammatory properties. And I put chipotle because I like things spicy. Chipotle does, hot spicy peppers also help to kind of support the immune system. And I put nutritional yeast because I like it and it's yummy, and it helps with a little B12 as well as metabolism. And then I put some sauerkraut because of the fermented foods to fuel your microbiome, and a little bit of the juice so that it can mix up very well with a little bit of tahini, because I love it, because I'm completely obsessed with tahini. And so that's my thick salad dressing. And then I toss in about a half a container of arugula. And I might put some seeds in there, like some hemp hearts, or I might put some beans in there, or I might put some fruit in there, like some frozen cherries if I don't have fresh ones, or I might put fresh ones, and I mix that up. And it is the best way to start your day, is some dark leafy greens for breakfast that is my medicine. My food is my medicine, and it's creamy and it's delicious and it satisfies me. And I get irritated if I don't get it. And so I bring my flax when I'm traveling, I just carry my flax. And my first stop is arugula. It doesn't matter what country I'm in. I say arugula, or si no tiene arugula, and then you have col, you have kale, and you get wherever you are, you can find some kind of dark leafy greens, and you can bring your flax with you. Even if most people have flax also. And that's how I start my day. I mean, there's, occasionally if I'm splurging and I have some more time, I'll have a tofu scramble, but generally that's my solid go-to. And, I love it. I mean, try it. I got a video on it on my YouTube channel, and don't knock it till you try it.
No, I'll have to try it, because I've been told that to eat the fermented foods maybe first, but I haven't thought about combining the berry, because we have lots of huckleberries here. This is the land of wild huckleberries, and we freeze them. So I eat at least a cup a day, but maybe mixing them with the savory stuff. That sounds pretty good. I'll have to try it.
Yeah, because otherwise, it can be, you have so much bitter, and bitter is something amazing, stimulates the digestive tract. It's great. But, in America, we're not really kind of trained to eat a lot of bitter stuff. So adding a little bit of fruit in there is great. But I've never had a huckleberry. So how would you describe a huckleberry? What's it like?
They're smaller than a blueberry,
Uh-huh.
and they're wild. They've done studies. They have like 10 times all the phytonutrients as a cultivated blueberry does.
Wow.
And they live generally, Washington, Idaho, Oregon are great places for them. Also, I was brought up in upstate New York. We used to go to a lake in the mountains in Pennsylvania. They had wild huckleberries there. They're very similar to blueberries. Blueberries are very good for you too.
Yeah.
So it's something since childhood that's been in my life. And
Amazing. I got to get up there and try some.
you're welcome to come.
So exciting.
I generally put 20 to 30 gallons in the freezers, for last for the whole year.
Wow. Well, that would definitely go well with a salad. Try it out.
Yeah, no, that's a good idea. Mix it because anyway, I think community support is really important.
Yeah.
I wish, I have friends that are recovering alcoholics and they go to AA meetings every day. And I know there's Overeaters Anonymous, but I've learned that it's okay to overeat as long as you overeat things like you eat for breakfast. Is that where can somebody find community support in helping them with their journey?
Yeah. I think this is so big. And it's something that is so important because I see a lot of patients, from different ends of the spectrum. Sometimes they're just entering into the medical system with a bad diagnosis and they're starting from a I am diabetic diagnosis or identity. Versus sometimes people get so far into this world of I need to eat right and everything needs to be perfect that they find themselves isolated and they find themselves kind of, I can't go out with my friends anymore. And I think that's really dangerous and preventable and something that it's so important that we address, that we connect around food. I remember hearing an interview of somebody in one of the blue zones in Icaria, Greece, and he was saying, everybody wants to know what we're eating to live so long. The blue zones are the hot spots, longevity hot spots. Why are they living to over 100 and they're still like gardening and walking up mountains? And how do they do that? And so he's like, yeah, everybody's got these questions. They ask us what we eat, but we don't ask each other what we eat. We ask, who are you with? It's about connection. And I think that so often, and there's this beautiful opportunity to connect around health driving behaviors. And in fact, when your community nudges you towards behaviors that help support you towards your best life, which is perfectly exemplified in the blue zones, then you've got a win-win. But if we're feeling isolated or we're feeling lonely in that journey, then, we know that the US Surgeon General just said we're in a loneliness epidemic, that feeling lonely, which affects nearly 60% of American adults right now, increases the likelihood of premature death, not just of mental health concerns, but of chronic diseases, and the mortality equivalent to smoking 15 cigarettes a day, that sensation of feeling lonely. So it just further exemplifies how much we need to connect and how can we do that. I work a lot in employee workplaces and giving lectures that are lifestyle medicine based to inspire and empower and unite people around healthy behavior change, because it's so much easier if you're at, say, a work meeting and everybody's on board and they serve healthy food rather than fried chicken. What would that look like if we all went on a walk and talk meeting when we need to go on a work meeting rather than sitting here for another kind of 7 hours? Then what would our workplaces look like? And we know that healthier employees are happier employees, are going to be more fulfilled, not just in their work, in their productivity, but also in their home life. It just fuels more ability to be purpose driven. And so in that setting, the employee workspace is already a community, and it's a great opportunity that benefits everyone because a healthier employee has lower healthcare expenditure, has, is more present rather than being absent due to sickness. And then of course, maybe we're retired and we want to connect around people. Then we've got this wonderful community at Love Life Telehealth. We've got docs covering all 50 states, which is amazing. We do this, every Thursday. One or some of us are talking about some topic, and you can engage in that. So it could be a virtual community. It could be a real life community. It has, there's a lot of wonderful plant-based groups, or maybe that's not accessible and you go to a yoga community, or you go to a hiking club, or you go to a gardening club, or have a community garden. So there's so many options to connect. And so many of those things help to support us and nudge us towards healthy behaviors, knowing that if we're purpose-driven, we know why we're waking up in the morning. That is thought to add about 8 extra vital years of life, not just years to your life, but life to your years. And layering in purpose, meaningful activities during your day that helps you kind of recognize, oh my gosh, I feel better. A true reward gets me closer to my finest self. And it's even better when I do it with someone else. So finding that community, which can look a lot of different ways, I think is pivotal for not just success in your health, but really to be your true vital best self. We have to connect. We are social beings. And while we might be introverts, there is some need for connection in all of us, and figuring out how that fits you in your life to help you thrive is so important.
Okay, you mentioned Love Life Telehealth. To find it, it's love.life telehealth. That way it's not a dating agency or anything.
Yes. It's another community.
if somebody, in what states are you licensed currently in?
Oh, I should have had these written down. Okay, so Alaska, Tennessee, which is where I live, Georgia, Virginia, Pennsylvania, Connecticut, and oh, there's always one I forget.
North
Virginia. Did I
Carolina.
say Virginia? Virginia?
In
Did I say
North
that?
Carolina too, I
North
saw.
Carolina. Okay,
Yeah.
yes. North Carolina, of course.
All right, that's wonderful. So if somebody said, gee, I would love to have her as my doc, you just go to love.life telehealth and sign up. That would be great.
Yeah, and if I am not in your state, so if you are in a state that's not one of those, we have amazing doctors in all 50 states, and I can't even tell you how much I respect this incredible team. They're the most amazing group of people to work with, and so right now we have all 50 states covered. So there will be someone amazing for you there.
Do you collaborate?
Yes, yes,
Okay.
it's just amazing. So we meet every 2 weeks, and often we will meet, or even if, sometimes we just have a tricky patient, or we say, you have the access to all of us and say, hey, what would you guys do in this situation? And to kind of just bounce it off other people. And it's so nice to have that community, because that's one thing. There's so many amazing doctors in the medical system. We need doctors in the medical system so badly that are lifestyle medicine certified, but it's very challenging because you can feel incredibly isolated. And for especially the new docs that are newly certified in lifestyle medicine, but even, patients don't read the book, and so sometimes there's a couple of tricky things and you're like, I really wish I had somebody to bounce this off of. And a lot of times it's hard to do that when you're in the major medical system and you're kind of flying solo in the lifestyle medicine world. And so I'm so lucky to be part of this team, and it's great because we can bounce stuff off of each other.
I think that's really great, because then if you find a doctor in love.life telehealth, you're actually getting the resources of 8 doctors.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's great. I will put, if you click more in the description, ways that you could reach love.life telehealth, reach Dr. Suze. She has a YouTube channel. I like watching them because it gives me a lot of energy just to watch her. And I really appreciate so much that you were able to come on and chat with us. And at the Voice of Meaning, please subscribe to our channel. Please subscribe to Dr. Suze's channel, and enliven and find meaning and purpose in your life. Any final comments?
Amen. Well, thank you so much. This has been such an honor, and I can't wait to hear these flutes. I'm very excited about all these Native American flutes behind you, and I really want to hear the sound. I think that sounds so